hectic. But yeah, like what? Obviously, I've got a mixed child. You know, my boy, mum's mixed race, so you know he's mixed as well. So it was weird because I had the conversation with him about you know, obviously when George Floyd happened. It was difficult for me to even come to terms, for him to come to terms with the whole situation, and explaining to him that there are, unfortunately, people that look like your nan who don't like people that look like your dad. And that's like, that to me is like hard. Crazy. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Because, I'm a black man. I don't have any issues with any white people. But if I came in as a black man and I spoke to my son, I said, you know, white people are this, white people are that, then how does he now look at his nan? Yeah. So, it was just crazy.
It's a confusing situation to be in. Do you know what I mean? Like, it is a really confusing place to be in. But having that conversation is just, that's like going to start him having his own conversations with himself, which is like so important, you know. So like, I'm sure you did amazingly.
Oh no, of course. I mean, I love all people, man. I mean, my son's mixed. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So
100%.
I don't have any.
It's mad. Like, I think that I've done a few of those poems at like spoken word events. I did a few online through lockdown and then before that, and I've had like people come up to me, like people who are mixed, and be like, literally, like, it's quite overwhelming because I just wrote it from a place where I was at. But yeah, like, they come up to me and they're literally like in tears, and they're like, you're saying things that I just never felt I was able to say. I never felt I was allowed to say how you're saying. I've never wanted to upset anyone, so I'm so glad you were able to say it for me. And I'm like, wow, it's like a big thing. Do you know what I mean? Like,
no, I don't, honestly, sorry to cut you off. I don't think I've heard anyone speak about it the way you articulated it before. Yeah. I mean, we know that there are people out there who, you know, advocates for all races, etc. But the way you kind of like put it across was just was crazy.
I just want to put this out as a disclaimer. I'm not an All Lives Matters person. I don't ever say all lives matter. That's not my message at all. But yeah, I get what you mean. Like, there's definitely people out there who are always talking about, like, I'm definitely not like a trailblazer. Like, I'm not someone that's individualist, but I feel like there's people that might make art about it, but there's some people that are not openly like addressing it or just speaking from that perspective. And it's not me trying to say that like I am mixed and I am different from everyone else, but it is the fact that like my experience is worthy as well. Of course, and I think a lot of the time, my experience anyway, and this is another thing, someone that's mixed who has consistently lived in London their whole lives, maybe in right slap bang in Peckham, may have had a completely different experience to what I've had. And someone who has lived in, I don't know, Herefordshire, I don't know, that just sounds posh. There's someone who's lived there.
No, I know
their
where you're
whole
going
lives,
with this.
who is mixed race, will have had a completely different experience from me. But for me, my experience was having lived in Sydenham and at Elephant, and then moving into Kent, and then moving back, and then moving back to Kent, and then moving back to London, and then teaching in London, and then teaching in Kent. And my experience in all of those circumstances, consistently being in between and consistently having those things as comparisons is what gave me my experience and is what gave me my perspective. And it made me realise that I had a lot of things that I just hadn't dealt with. Like, so again, it's all the idea about unlearning and then learning about yourself again. So I'm like, at the moment, I'm like writing a book, which is about that. And it's basically a mixture between like prose and poetry. So like the prose are more like memoirs. So experiences I had growing up, which I think shaped my mixed identity, or perhaps challenged it, or perhaps was a difficult part of it. And then poetry as well, so some of the stuff that you may have seen, and I just want it to be quite mixed media, so I'm going to have like some photography and stuff in there as well.
That's so cool.
So yeah, that's the plan, because I've read there's this book called British by Afua Hirsch.
Okay.
And I would say it's,
British.
Yeah. It's wicked. Like she's sick. Like she's
just pull it a bit closer.
She's a like that.
Yeah, just pull it. Keep going. Oh, not up, not up. Down.
I don't want to break it. I'm so bad with things like this. I will just break it.
It's literally.
Okay, cool.
It's
It's like it's alive. Sorry.
Sorry.
But yeah, no, she wrote this book, and she's like mixed race lady, but she came from, I think she lived in like quite an affluent area, like Wimbledon or something.
Oh, okay.
And am I right to put my hair up, or is it going to have continuity issues?
You do you, man. You do you.
But yeah, she grew up in quite an affluent area, and then I think she ended up going to, oh my God, I'm definitely going to get this wrong now, either Oxford or Cambridge.
Yeah.
So she's speaking about it from like a completely different perspective, but she really inspired me, and it was the first book I'd read from a mixed race perspective.
Okay.
It was the first book that I'd read, and when I say that, what I mean is by a mixed race person about the mixed race perspective. I'd read books by mixed race people about the black experience. I'd read books by white theorists about what it might be like to feel mixed race. But I personally, and maybe it's the fact that, you know, maybe I was naive at that point, but I hadn't read anything about that before. And I was like, damn, like people are not talking about this enough, and I still have other things I want to say. And yeah, so it really inspired me to do that, and to write about it a little bit more. I think it's good. It's always good to talk, isn't it?
It weren't the George Floyd. Obviously, you've had, you know, whatever feelings you've had about being mixed for forever. What gave you the voice to speak about it?
I went to an event called Poetic Unity. It's in Brixton. It's held at the Black Culture Archives. Shout out Rex.
That is, yeah. And
I went to an event there, and it was a competition, and I didn't know that it was a competition until like quite soon after I got there. And he was like, "Are you going to be in the competition?" I was like, "Oh, sure, okay." And I'm still quite fresh to doing it. And it was during Black History Month, so he said it had to be surrounding Black history. And I sat down to write, and I was like, I don't know. I didn't know how to feel. I genuinely didn't know how to feel, because I was like, my history is so tied together.
It must be mad, because I don't know if it kind of feels the same as like a Spanish parent, a Spanish dad being with like a whatever different colour, creed, mum and whatnot, and that kid is mixed. Is it mixed? Is it the same sort of
so
thing?
I think
or?
a lot of people, like, this is the thing, like this,
because I know you can't obviously talk about everyone that's mixed.
Everyone's experience. Like it's impossible for me to coin everyone's experiences, and a lot of people get really upset, and I get it. A lot of mixed people get really upset being like, but we're not confused. That you can't say that everyone that's mixed has an identity crisis.
Yeah.
But I do think that everyone that is mixed has to, either loving it or hating it, has to explore their identity. That isn't to say that they are confused, but I definitely think that it means that you have to explore it, because I don't think...
That's very dismissive to even say. That's very rude to even...
People will just say that, like, oh, you're just confused, or like, you just, like, you don't know who you are. And it's like, yeah, but like, I have to understand who I am. And even, you know, it's not exactly the same, but it's similar, I think, for being black and British. You know, like, you're a young black man, but where your home ties are, and then where you are, and you have to explore it. And if you don't explore it, you're not really gonna get it. You know, like, you're not really gonna get what that means. And I think for me at the time, I've got a line about it in one of my pieces, but it felt as though, like, I said, like, I felt like I had the weight of both. I had the weight of like both shortcomings of both being white and black on my shoulders.
Yeah.
And like, I felt like I had that as like a big responsibility, and I don't feel responsible for any of my ancestors' you know, things that have gone wrong or gone right or whatever. I don't actually feel responsible for it.
Yeah.
But I felt like I was being made to feel responsible in whatever space that I was in. I became the spokesperson for whatever opposition it was. And that was mad for me, because I was like, I don't even feel well enough equipped to have some of these conversations, you know? So that's what that's how I felt.
Wow.
I felt like I had responsibility for both. And it was a lot. It was a lot, like, as a kid.
I can't even imagine what.
Yeah, it was weird. Like, it was a long time. Like, you know, like, I love my nan, don't get me wrong, but my nan, like, is fully racist. Like, my nan is actually fully racist. Like, she can't see it in me, but that's, you know, that's part of being racist, isn't it? You know, I've got my black friend. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, so she's fully racist. Yeah. But I've got to say, like, when my mum couldn't, my nan clothed me. Do you know what I mean? Like, and my nan loves the bones of me and would give me everything. So yes, she's racist, but you know, when people are like, you have no time, cut every single racist person out in your life. But I'd be cutting everyone out. Do you know what I mean? Like, who would I be left with? Me. Like, do you get what I mean? That's lonely. And you have to speak to people and you have to understand. And I'm not saying that I don't agree nor or think that her perspective is right, but as her, you know, as her granddaughter, I have to respect her as a woman and I have to respect her as who she is to me. But we come to heads every day, like every time we have a conversation. And she actually said to me recently, which burnt me, like, she said to me recently, I don't know when you became so obsessed with all of this race stuff. I said, Nan, I never had a choice but to be obsessed with it. I never had a choice. Like, even in a way, as a young black person, yes, race obviously is important to you, but if you have a church where everyone there looks like you, and you have communities, whether they are funded or not, where you are welcome and you feel safe, in those circumstances, actually, sometimes race isn't an issue for you. When you're there with everyone that's cool, that race isn't an issue for you. Whereas I have always found that race has been not an issue, but it's been something I've been aware of for a long time. I just said to it, it's only now that I've really felt the confidence to start vocalising it, because it's only now I've started to understand it and understand the effect it makes on me. So like I said, I would never speak for everyone that's mixed. And I think that we need to also stop thinking that mixed is just black and white, because there's so, like, mixed is mixed, you know, like, it's there in the word. But I do think that it's worth looking into the black and white mixed experience a little bit more.
Where are you at with it? Where are you at personally with it now? With
what do you mean?
Because I know obviously you know you speaking about it. I could tell that there was pain. There was pain there as well.
It's painful, but it's like I don't.
But you've had but at the same time you've had the courage to even like dive into it, to even talk about what it looks like or what it looked like. So
I don't want to. Do you know what it is? I really don't want to upset anyone. That's the thing, is that I do genuinely feel like sometimes when I talk about it, I'm upsetting both people.
It's crazy though, man.
You know,
why can't people see that? Yeah, all right, yeah, you're mixed or whatever, but we all have these kind of I can't remember the word I want to use. We all have these complex situations that we're in. You know, not even because of our choice.
Yeah. Exactly.
So when you're expressing how you feel, I mean, why do you have people who are like,
I need to show you this video. It's so funny. So when I was at this poetry jam the other day, literally, Terrell, the poetry jam, sickest event. Like, it's so nice. Like, such a nice event.
Is that Mr. Lewis?
Yeah. It was wicked. Like, such a nice event. Loved it. And such good vibes. But it was the black edition, yeah? And that's what it was called. And I was like, and I was like, I don't know, like, that's mad. And I went with my two friends, they're both mixed race, and they're like, no, like, stand up and say what you were going to say. Because I was like, no, do you know what? I think I'm going to change what I was going to say. Like, I think I might, because I just don't know, like, I don't want to put myself out there. And then, do you get, like, I was just, sometimes, you know, I get social anxiety sometimes. And I was like, I'm actually scared about people coming up and asking me questions about it. And then, like, sometimes I don't want to get tongue-tied or, like, And they were like, literally, my friend was like, no. She was like, you're going to go up there and you're going to say it. And even if we're the only 2 people in the audiences that are like cheering you on, you're going to do it because you need to speak your truth.
Yeah.
And I was like, cool. And it was mad. Like, I went up and like, I could kind of, obviously everyone's watching you anyway. And people are kind of eating and whatever. And it was like slowly, it started to get silent. And I'm like talking, and I just felt like people's eyes on me. Like I was like, oh my God, I really hope I'm not upsetting anyone in here. And it was jokes because I watched back the video. And there's a bit in the poem that I'm talking about, and I'm saying about how like I fully believe that we should be, obviously I believe in Black Lives Matter. Like obviously I believe in the equality of people, but they're like, homophobia in the black community needs to stop. We can't be saying we treat us equally and then saying that you want to go and what? Come on, that's mad. Like to me, that's hypocrisy. And like I personally think that people may look at me as if like now I'm the enemy, and I'm like no. I'm still for equal rights for all of us, but all of them as well. You know, like
what, it's mad. It's crazy. How can you? Listen, it's crazy. What you're saying is just so true.
But people don't like to hear it. If you see the video, I say it, and then the girl's like this. I was like, obviously I didn't see that I was performing. And I was like, oh shit, like I hope I never offended anyone. Like, I don't mean it in an offensive way, but that's my point. Like that's how I feel. Like I don't feel like there can be room for hypocrisy anymore.
People are so offended. It's like you say something, it's not even directly aimed at them, but you say something and it's like, you can't say that because I think that it's wrong. So now I'm going to confront you.
But I think it's right.
And it's, do you know what I mean? It's like, it's just crazy. People are just mad.
And also, I feel like with those sort of situations as well, is that often people say things like that and then they're like, it hurts them because they kind of know that it's true. Do you get what I mean? Like, you know, don't get me wrong, like there's some old ragga songs that I love. But when I listen to it and I'm like, the things you're saying are actually mad. The things you're saying are actually mad. And like, I growing up in a dance scene, I've got a lot of friends from the LGBTQ plus community, and like, of course, and you know, I've got an uncle who's gay as well, and like growing up as a young black guy in Jehovah's Witness family, and that's mad. But we cannot, like, how can we say, you know, treat people with respect? You can't judge people from what they look like, but then it happens massively within our community. That's mad. And
this is where I always say there is a clear mental disorder amongst the human population. Seriously, there really is. From race to religion to sexuality, it's just mental. And I don't mean people are going crazy and because of what they choose to worship or become. I don't care. Like you're I don't have a problem with you being gay. I don't have my mum's Christian. Dad's Muslim. They were never meant to be together. But I mean, I'm a product of their love. Do you know what I mean? So what is the big deal?
Your testimony of the fact that like almost like that doesn't really matter. Do you know what I mean? Like, look what can be created regardless, you know? And like, I think like I'm still learning, obviously. But like, I've had to go through my own prejudices and understand why I had those feelings and why I had those thoughts and like really work on them. And that was, and the LGBTQ plus was the first place that I started. Because I was like, boy, like, can you imagine? That it's not my experience. So therefore, if I'm saying, you know, rich, privileged, white person, you need to understand my experience. You need to understand our experience. You need to understand this. I need to then humble myself enough to work and understand the experiences that aren't mine, you know? Like, I need to do that too. So that's something I definitely I think I've always done it, but 2020 I definitely was like, right, I'm going to read more about the LGBTQ plus experience. I'm going to read more about intersection. I want to know who Marsha P. Johnson is. Like, she's like, do you get what I mean? I want to know who these people are so that I'm not ignorantly, then I can base my decision, you know?
And it's uncomfortable for people to actually be honest to themselves.
I had to be so honest with myself. Like I was experiencing prejudice that I wasn't even aware I was experiencing, you know, and it's because of things that you're told and you see and you hear, and You know, I get it. You keep hearing things over and over again. It starts to become, but what are you actively doing to combat that?
And you said it's about obviously unlearning everything that you've been taught, everything you think you know, as well.
Question
That's
your
important.
parents, I would say.
Yeah.
Anyone out there, question your parents.
It's important.
Yeah, sorry. People are going to hate me for that. But question them, ask them, be a why person. Because sometimes I think like parents just regurgitate stuff and you don't actually know why you're telling your kid that.
Weird you say that, because that's weird you say that, because I actually told my son, I actually told him, I had a conversation with him like a couple of weeks ago, and I said, listen, I know I say a lot of things, yeah, but don't even take my word for it. Go and do your own research if it's something that it needs to be researched, or question me. Ask me why. If you have a query, or you hear something and you're thinking, I'm not quite sure about this, ask me.
Work it out.
But this is because of what, you know, you said, you know, questioning your parents, not in a rude way, but, you know, just asking why. And
parents' words are so important. You know, like for a long time, you're the only person that they've got to look at and base themselves off on and things like that. And, you know, I think it makes a big difference within education. I don't know if you've experienced this as well. Like, you know, you've got, and I understand it. I've sat down with parents who were like, yeah, but when I was at school, everyone was racist and no one cared about me. So I've just said to them, don't listen to any of those white teachers, or vice versa, or other behavioural situations where it's like, well, I said to him he should go and do that. And I'm like, you just have to be really careful, because I get that that's your kids. But like, for example, you know, I've got kids who are like, yeah, but I don't want my son being with a boy in the class that's gay. And I'm like, but we're an equality school. You know, we're supportive, we're inclusive and we're supportive. So your experiences or whatever you think can't actually come into play at the moment. You have to let them find their own reasonings and their own path. And that's what I think happened with me with race as well, is I was like, what is going on, my identity in general. I was like, what is going on? Like, why do I feel like this? Like, why? And then it was like, it's piecing things together over time. And even now, like literally I was sat and having a conversation. I went for dinner with a friend recently. Yeah. And we hadn't seen each other for 8 years. Wow. And I was like, that's mad. Like, that's crazy. And so we're just sitting down catching up, and we ended up, as you do, tripling and toppling into different stories. And I started to tell her something. And I was like, I haven't relived that memory for years and years and years. I was just telling her about it. And she was like, I'm so sorry that even happened to you. So and I was like, you know what? I'd forgotten about it. But had I? Had my body forgotten about it, had my mind and how it's been tuned now, and had my psyche, I guess, and myself, had I forgotten it, had my memory just forgotten? Because I'm sure that experience probably shaped a lot of things that I was telling her about. Yeah. But I'd forgotten it. But had I? You know, like, so, yeah, I think it's, really important to think about what you've been told and what you've seen, and then keep going back to those things, you know.
Unpack everything.
Yeah, massively. Because I think for me, like, I know a lot of people say that you can't experience racism if you are, like they say that, a lot of people will say, which I agree with, but I feel like some people don't get it quite right. They say you can't be racist if you're black. It's not that you can't be racist. You can't be in the terms of the fact that, yes, race and power, you can't separate them, and if you are powerful, then that's how you can be racist. I do understand that theory, but I experienced racism as a mixed race person from both black and white people. So like, that was a mad place for me. Like, that was a really weird place.
That's nuts. I can't even imagine, but that's crazy.
So I think that it just took a long time for me to be like, in a way, like, but obviously, you know, as always, there's the flip side of it. I've experienced so much love from black, white, and everyone in between. So it's not like that completely coins my experience, but like, it was like something where I was like, why? Like, why does that person feel like that? Why did that person feel like that about me? And I genuinely was just there. Like, and I think for me, I was like, it is my actual being. It's not me as a person, what I said here and there. It's actually like me just being here and being mixed is something that you don't like, either side. which was hard because I was like, I can't even change that. Doesn't matter how much I do or how much I agree with you or don't agree with you, or straighten my hair for maybe one side or don't straighten my hair, and it doesn't matter because you just don't like what I am, which was mad.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So
it's powerful. I mean, even having a conversation like this is such a powerful thing for, you know, I mean, mixed race boys and girls, adults, men, whatever. It's powerful because a lot of people feel this way, but, you know, they don't even have it. It's just weird. I mean, I just keep going back to my son and like what his world must be like, you know, being a mixed child, innit?
yeah.
And yeah, obviously as a parent, you just want him to have a smooth sailing sort of future. But of course, these things are going to come up.
Yeah. And it might not come up in the normal sense of it. There's lots of ways that it can come up, you know. Like for me, it came up as
internal and external as well, yeah.
From other people, you know, like it might come up, you know, his might come up in, he might have never felt that way until he's in the workplace or until something, you know. But for a lot of the time, for me, it was situations like, yeah, but you're not actually black, so we can say this. Or like, and I'm like, or me being like, yeah, but you don't talk like that. Or, but like, I sound common with white people, but posh, whatever the hell that means. Or when I'm with black people, and I'm like, what does that even mean? Like my accent's just messed up because I moved from here, there and everywhere. I sound like I'm from Essex. I've never even been to Essex. It's mad. Like, do you know what I mean? Yeah. And I think, but for me, like some like looks wise and things like that, like appearance wise, a lot of that came up being around white people. Like I genuinely, like my experience was like, I just felt like for so long, and not even to be deep, but like I was like, I'm so ugly. Like I'm so ugly. I couldn't see it like for so long. And there was so many situations. It was like abject, like people saying like, you're weird looking. You're so weird. And I couldn't get past it. And as a teenager, that's mad. Wow. You know, as a teenager, you're going through them stages where you're not sure about yourself. But then my idea of self-acceptance on the other side was like, I didn't feel accepted from the black community. In fact, I openly like wasn't, you know, like it was mad. That I literally like went to a community event in Elephant and Castle. Yeah. You know, you go to community events to find community, and like the woman, she spat on me and called me a mongrel, and I was like, that's mad. Like, so I can't come here either then. Do you know what I mean? Like it was, so I think, and that's not, again, it's not everyone's experience.
Of course, yeah.
At all. Yeah. At all. But those experiences really made me, and I think that they came up in so many different ways, in so many different times, and like, you know, professionals not having the words to speak to me, and you know, like literally, like I remember my in primary school, and you're colouring in and things like this, and I was like, there's no colour, I don't have the colour to colour in. Now there was one that's called flesh colour. Don't know if you remember, it used to be called flesh colour, you know. It was a pale, you know, the pale pinky colour.
Oh yeah,
that used to be called flesh colour. And then obviously, like if you were brown, you had a brown colour. And I was like, but there's nothing in between. And I literally, clear as day, can remember being like, I don't have a colour. And my teacher was like, oh, you don't have one, and like this. And I was like, yeah. And I was like, what colour am I? And awkwardly, bless her, she was like, oh, you're like digestive biscuit coloured. And I was like, so for years, that's what I thought I was. Like years, like I'm digestive biscuit coloured. Oh, shit. That's mad, isn't it? Like that's mad. She didn't want to say you're mixed or you're both or you're, you know, she didn't want to say those things because she didn't know how to talk about it. And that just to me, she's a professional. She didn't know how to say those things, bless her, at that time. Yeah. And so yeah, that's why I think it's important we talk. Definitely. So that you don't, and what is this whole, like, I don't want to pick a side, because quite clearly I can't, do you know what I mean? Like, no one else's experience is your experience. True. And there's wealth and worth and value in that. So like, and like your experience right now can still change and develop, and you can, like we were saying, I guess taking from it the idea about unlearning, relearning, And just, finding worth in your own experience, I think, is really important to me, because that touches on the idea about being a creative, being a teacher, restrictions, being mixed, all of those things. Finding worth in your own experience, using it.
That's dope.
Yeah.
No, that's dope. Well, you're gonna this could be off record, but what are your plans anyway? Like moving forward with your creativity and
So I've got a few I've just filmed like a really nice visual for one of my poetry pieces with a few dancers and an artist. It was a really nice process. It's very like arty and abstract. Like, I'm from a contemporary dance background in it, so I love weird shit.
No, this is cool.
And so I filmed a visual of that.
Art to me, man. At the end, art is art to me.
Yeah,
That's
I
cool.
love it. So I've got that, and then obviously I'm carrying on doing my book reviews consistently.
Yeah.
It's actually quite annoying because I probably like read faster than like I review. So like some of the books I'm putting out now, I literally read like 6 months ago, and I'm like, and then in terms of my book, I just literally 2 days ago inputted it to the Murky Book Prize thing. You know, Stormzy's publishing company. So like,
for real.
Yeah.
What are they saying?
I'm just basically banking my life on winning it.
No, that's I have to give you a spot for that.
I'm banking my whole life on winning it.
That's sick.
So I inputted that, but obviously there's like hundreds of thousands of people that have gone into it. So I put it into that, but it's good because it's made me think like, even if nothing does come of that, I'm still going to write it and I still want to get out there.
Yeah.
So that's the plan.